cloud. Okay, awesome. I'm so excited. So one of the things I didn't mention with this Akashic, with the Akashic Women's Masterclass is a pendulum. But you don't need a pendulum for this work. I have another method. If you have a pendulum, do you have one, Brandy? Okay, yeah, go grab it if you have one. Okay, cool. Leanne, I don't know, do you have a pendulum?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can grab it. We can also use muscle testing, but if you have a pendulum then, and it's easy to grab, you can go ahead and grab it.
Sure, sounds good.
And here's Sarah. Okay, cool. So where are you located, Brandy? Are you in Canada?
I'm in Cranbrook, BC with Casey.
Oh, are you? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So did you like know her before she came into the online world?
I didn't actually. So I moved to Cranbrook about 5 years ago now, and I just started like following local women in like the online space.
Oh, that's so
And then
cool.
she's like, I've watched her like evolve to this, and then I did her like co-creatrix training, which was really amazing. I'm like
That's awesome.
moving towards like the healing coach realm. I just don't know what my thing is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a bit of a journey for sure. Absolutely. Okay, cool. Well, there are a few more women, and I'm not sure though if they're planning on attending live or if it's more of the recording that they're wanting to get. So I've pressed record. Okay, good. I've got that. I did a masterclass last week. Leanne, you were on for that masterclass, and I didn't think I pressed record at the end, and I had a mini meltdown. And then I got the little reminder in Zoom saying that I had pressed record. So I was like, oh, anyways, so pressed record. And so what I would love to know before we dive in is what you know about the Akashic records. So Sarah, I know that you've studied the Akashic records. And Brandy, I think you've talked to probably Danielle about the Akashic records. But yeah, just I'd just be curious to know where everyone's at and like the scope of their experience with the records. Can we go around? Can you share a little bit? Sure. And Brandy, since you're right beside me, is that okay? We've already chatted. Oh yeah, cool.
Absolutely. So I don't remember when I first came across it, but I got a book and
cool.
I read about it, and then I kind of had just forgotten about it. I knew they were like records of your soul.
Yeah.
And then I've had a past life regression reading.
Mm-hmm.
Something else, and then again it came back up when Danielle took it. I did a little session with her, and so that is why I'm here. She's like, you gotta.
Okay, awesome. Oh, that's so awesome. Cool. Thank you. And Leanne, I think you were in the solstice like 3-day event, and I know I talked about the Akashic records there, but is there any like what's your experience with the records? And I'd just be curious to drop in.
Actually, through my art, I think I just worked with it intuitively, and I didn't really have any kind of words or sort of methods around it. It was just like an intuitive thing that was happening. So I just, I've joined you on several calls. And I'm doing the year-long container, the monthly. So it's just helping me step through some understanding and clarify things for me, and I'm finding support and through these sessions. So thanks.
That's awesome. Great. Cool. Leanne's art is stunning. It's like beyond stunning. It carries so much profound medicine. And so thanks, Leanne. And Sarah.
I have done a training in Akashic Records, and so it's something that I'm like intimately involved with, I guess. And I just love how like you can tap into and clear blocks, but also like tap into just wisdom and steps for like next steps and that
yeah,
kind of
the
thing.
clarity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. That's what I love about the records. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Well, so let's see here. I've got a little bit of an outline. So something that I shared in the write-up was that I wanted to travel a few different timelines. And that's also what I love about the Akashic Records is I think that people often think about the Akashic Records in past lifetimes, and that is of course totally true, but it's so vast and there's actually so many timelines that we can travel when it comes to our healing. So we're going to dive into that. Oh, and Sarah, I had mentioned a pendulum. I didn't mention it on the call, but if you have a pendulum, you can at some point grab it. It'll just be a bit here before we dive in. And we can also muscle test too, but I think you probably have a pendulum, don't you? Yeah, you would. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let me see here. So my process is called the Flower of Life Akashic Healing Method, and it's a body-based approach to working with the Akashic Records. So that's what I'm going to be dropping us into, because you know, one of the things I discovered along my journey with the Akashic Records, and I found the Akashic Records over a decade ago, was that the Akashic Records, and I'm going to share a little bit about them, are a really beautiful fifth dimensional like library of information. But the Akashic Records are actually held at the level of the subconscious. They're also held at the level of soul and the level of like our cells, like even like at a cellular level, we're holding the Akashic Records. So it actually, we are working at the level of somatics, at the level of body. And so when we're working with the Akashic Records, we're getting to like a lot of a trauma imprinting in the body. And oftentimes when I'm working with women too, they're doing this journey of like embodying their essence or embodying soul more fully. And so as we work to clear a lot of the past life karmic patterns and baggage, we're actually clearing out some of the trauma imprinting at the level of body, and their essence can drop in and actually take up more space at the level of body. So they start to become more grounded, more anchored, more in their feminine essence and more in their feminine power. And also it's that supportive journey of expression, of allowing us to lead from soul and allowing our soul to ground and take up space in the physical world. So that's a little bit of an introduction here. I'm going to just refer, I've got a very, very brief outline, and I also like to really flow when I teach. So that's me. So I've been working with the Akashic Records for over a decade, and I also, a lot of my work revolves around the feminine. So I'm going to give a little bit of a brief history as to why that is and why it's an important piece. However, the Akashic Records, of course, you can travel anywhere with the Akashic Records. You can travel through, there are some clients that actually work at the level of body, like massage therapist clients. You can take their records and you can work around prosperity or money, communication issues, visibility issues, all like relationship issues. They're so profound and you can travel anywhere. And the beautiful thing about the Akashic Records is that they get to the very, very root, the very soul level, subconscious, karmic root. So like I was saying, the Akashic Records are that fifth dimensional source of wisdom. So the Akashic Records themselves, I'm going to take it back just a little bit farther, is an ancient source of wisdom, love, and healing. And again, it's that vibrational field of information sits fifth dimensionally, and it existed before any of this. And so it contains memory. It contains information. It contains a record of all of the experiences, thoughts, emotions, and choice points of humanity, for one, but each soul actually has their own Akashic record. So when we travel along our soul path and, given into the concept that the soul is much older than this current physical experience, as we travel along our soul path, the soul has different experiences, different thoughts, different emotions, and also has made different choices. So choice becomes kind of the pivotal piece, because as divine beings, we always have choice and free will. And the Akashic records, that vibrational field, contains all the information of the different choices that we've made. So there's two types of energetic blocks, so to speak, when we're talking about the Akashic records, and they come from the level of choice, and it's either a positive choice or a negative choice. Not judging either, because they both have their place. Sometimes the soul will actually make a negative choice because the soul desires the experience of the negative choice. But a lot of times souls will find the Akashic records. Souls will find the Akashic. I know when I really started to get that, I'm like, oh, that's why I did that. You're right. Souls will show up because they're very, very done with the karmic experience of the negative choice. And the Akashic records are so brilliant at getting to the very, very root and dissolving it, and we can clear it out. And all of a sudden, there is life force energy. There is space for new choice to be made. Sometimes we're, clearing out actual like pain imprints or pain bodies, right? So that can be purged through the system. So there's actually like a clarity and a newfound sense of awareness and ability to ground and express more fully in the physical world. I want to bring it back a little bit to this whole idea of positive and negative choice points one last time, because it's an important piece and it kind of boils it down. So negative choice is really just a choice that takes us out of congruency or out of alignment with our true divine nature and our true divine power as spiritual beings having a human experience. So that usually lends itself to limitations, scarcity, lack, fear, illusion, disconnect, pieces like that. A positive choice is a choice that supports or aligns to our true divine nature and our true divine power as spiritual beings having this human experience, right? And so at a deeper level, when our soul is yearning, when we are desiring to have more of that, a certain experience, that is the soul guiding us into that congruency or that alignment with our divinity, right? More of our divinity wanting to express or lead in the physical world. And so with the Akashic records is such a beautiful, beautiful tool on multiple levels. Is such a beautiful tool at traveling back to the original timeline, wherever the choice happened. And again, we can untangle it. So the other beautiful thing about the Akashic records is that the Akashic records contain our divine soul level blueprint. So it really holds that like clear, crystalline understanding of our original like soul blueprint. And so when you're working with the Akashic records, there's like a natural like realignment that can happen. And we're going to look at that. And one of the simplest ways that I like to connect to that unique blueprint or that unique piece of clarity is connection to the higher self. All right, so that's a little bit about that. And as we go, I'll share more for sure. Now, the process that I teach as well, called it, and I already told you the name of it, but I actually also work within the Akashic field. And so for actually many years, I worked with the Akashic records, and it was actually like a very systematic, a much more kind of like masculinized way of working with the Akashic records. And wasn't anything necessarily like wrong with it, but for me, I kept feeling like feels like there's deeper I want to go. I want to go deeper. I was still getting like really beautiful results, but I knew there was more. I knew there was deeper space holding that I could do. And it just felt like there were other pieces that I could or should be able to access with the Akashic records. So then I discovered the Akashic field, and I kept hearing about the Akashic field from my guides, and then kind of coming across like different bits and pieces about the Akashic field. And then I kept getting the guidance on how to access the Akashic field. So that's one layer that gets woven into this approach, is working with the Akashic field, or the Akasha. And I actually like saying Akasha too, because to me, it kind of carries it. It's a very like a very high vibration, like loving, healing, like pure creative field of potentiality. And it's subtle, and it's like a playground of possibility, and we open to that first. And then within that, we can access the Akashic records. So as we open up to the Akashic field, we start to, and I'll guide you through the meditation visualization process to open us into the Akashic field. And I was just thinking I may be able to give you the prayer after the actual masterclass is done too, so that you have that. But I'm going to guide you through the visualization and the meditation, and that begins to drop us into our channels of wisdom and truth. And it just takes us into a deeper space. And from there, we'll go ahead and we'll access the Akashic field. And I'm going to guide you through how to work with the Akashic field, because there are times when I'm even with a client and I will just work journeying in the Akashic field, and it is like amazing, because the Akashic field's like really responsive and creative and intelligent and healing. It actually just starts to kind of, to me, and it's different for everyone in terms of like how they access it and kind of interact with it, and how they begin to kind of like play with the Akashic field. Right. But to me, it started speaking like very visually, and it may even start speaking like through my body. Like I might all of a sudden feel like heaviness in my throat, or I might feel like something's like really being like amplified in like the womb, or might like have energy running up and down the left side of my body. So because we're plugged into the Akashic field, there's information that starts to become like illuminated. So that's body wisdom, that's connection to our essence and our higher self wisdom in the Akashic field. And so the Akashic field will start talking, for me, oftentimes visually. So it's like very shamanic. And that's how I love to play in that realm that way. For you, it could be visuals. It totally could be. And oftentimes it can be beings, right? Because it's kind of like it's opening us up to another dimension of communication. So it can be beings. And this also too depends on sometimes who I'm working with. Someone who's really connected, to the angelic realm. Oftentimes I've got angels showing up, right? And they're bringing messages, or they're guiding the healing session. Actually, it's so cool. Sometimes in group work though, like I'll have star beings, like from different soul groups show up with different messages. And guides can show up, elementals can show up, like it just depends. And this is something too, if it's like, if there's a particular like goddess or archetype or being that you do desire to work with, it's really fun even to just invite them into the Akashic field and use them to guide the journey, or to share wisdom, or for activations. So there's like so much to play with. So I'm just going to kind of introduce you to some of the layers, and then we're going to travel through it. And I'm going to drink my water while I do it. So that's a little bit about the Akashic field. And so for me, when I'm working with the Akashic field, and when I'm working with the Akashic records too, it's like very wisdom body based. It's very fluid. It's very felt sense. It's very shamanic. And I like to journey through the Akashic experience in a very circular motion, because transformation works in a cycle. And so as I'm working, if I take myself through a session, I may do it very similarly, or if I'm taking a client through a session, I access the Akashic field. I may request a guide on behalf of my team. And I always tap into higher self, because higher self gives me like a really beautiful starting point for what is showing up in my current experience. But I also get a desired sense of like what I am like being guided into, and what it's almost like what wants to be untangled or released, and simultaneously like what is where I'm being guided, like what is next. And the higher self is that beautiful, like to me, that beautiful like North Star and that beautiful touch point. I mean, when I'm working with clients, I can tap into higher self and I could get colors and symbols and wisdom that comes through. It's like a very intangible, tangible for me aspect of connecting with the essence of a client. Okay, and then from there is where I start to actually go to work with the Akashic records. So we'll pull open the Akashic record for each of you, your vibrational record. And then we're going to look at what kind of like the major energetic issue is that's ready to be cleared at the very root, right? Totally, to support your evolution, to support your soulful feminine evolution. So we'll dive into that, and then we'll do past lifetime, and we'll do inner child, and we'll do ancestral. I did say I was going to talk a little bit about the feminine, but and I'm not really feeling like guided to go very deep in it, because I want to start to drop in, but in terms of the feminine, and as the feminine as an essence or like an energy on the planet, it's been the predominant energy, the feminine energy that's been suppressed, right, on the planet. And doing Akashic record work, and I think I've done like well over, totally rising, exactly. And I think I've done over 6,000 Akashic sessions, and I've always been drawn to work on behalf of the feminine. It's just a part of my medicine. But to boil it down, right, I started to see, wow, like this goes back a long, long time. And this has been a key piece of what's been missing in society. And it definitely has affected like just women in general, like in our experience, and we see that shifting. But the feminine consciousness on the planet and how that's ready to rise within each one of us, in our relationships, in the matrix of the home, in our businesses, in our communities, right? And how the feminine consciousness really wants to rise up and heal and bring a great rebalancing, I feel is where we're at, and what the Akashic records also really work with in terms of what we're stepping into is unity consciousness, is really kind of clearing out what doesn't serve the suppression and the pain of the feminine, creating space within that, giving her the power, the space to start to rise and lead, just like you said, Brandy. And also oftentimes bringing the healthy masculine kind of like into beautiful balance, so that we can have these new templates as we start to anchor into and lead in the new paradigm. So many of the women that are often attracted to me, they're new earth leaders. Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. So that, I think, is enough for me to share. And an hour working in the Akashic records is plenty. So let's go ahead and start to play. So I have the visualization prayer here. And like I said, I will send that to you, and so that you have it. I'm so thirsty yesterday and today, and I kept wondering what is going on. And then I saw this post about solar flares, and I swear every time there's like massive solar flares, every time I'm like so dehydrated. So I'm drinking my water. Okay, so let's go ahead and settle in. And hopefully you have your journal, or you can just, show up and receive, however works for you. So the invitation is to go ahead and close your eyes and drop your chin. And with that, let's just start presencing ourselves. So bringing our focus to our environment, any scents, any sounds. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start to bring our focus, our awareness to our body. And to our breath. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and take a breath in through the nose and down into the energetic womb space. And up and out through the mouth. And then we'll do that breath 2 more times, bringing it to the count of 3. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call down the temples of divine love, light, truth, abundance, wisdom, and power to descend, grow, and expand around us, calling in our guides, masters, angels, teachers, ancestors, goddesses to be present, and for truth and accuracy to be obtained for the highest good of all of us here, and any woman who'll be listening to this call in the future. Asking this to be a divinely protected space where only the highest frequencies of love and light shall exist. Thank you, thank you. I'm going to ask that should there be any negative attachments, that please also be cleared, banished from the space. And we'll just take a moment and just start to let your body weight drop and drop until you feel fully held by the beauty of Mother Earth. Allowing yourself to begin to drop into your back body. And just kind of like any focus that you have invested in like last week or throughout the next week or the next month, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull it all right to the present moment. Bringing your focus to the energetic womb space. Once again, we're going to go ahead and see that fill up with like a delicious golden energy. Seeing the gold energy swish, swirl, cleanse, clear, just kind of like rejuvenating the whole pelvic bowl. And then bringing that down through the core of the body, down through all the layers of earth and crust and soil and root and rock, right down to the core of Mother Earth. And then we'll go ahead and just wrapping it around a piece of jade crystal and letting your body weight drop just a little bit more. Now we're going to bring our focus up about 50 feet above our head. And we're going to go ahead and see a gold door swing open. And as it does, we'll go ahead and see gold, pink, and sparkly light cascade down, 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 entering in through the top of the head. And we're just going to allow ourselves to receive and receive all that divine sustenance, all that radiance, all that love, all that prosperity. And we're going to let it fill us up to the tips of our toes, through our legs, arms, pelvis, core of the body, through the chest and the neck to the top of the head, illuminating a gorgeous crown, something that expresses your unique essence. And really, like allowing yourself to come into that queen archetype. Continuing to allow the sparkly energy to just fill you up until all your cells are just radiating with this pure, positive perfection of divine universal love and light. At the center of the heart chakra, you can go ahead and see a magenta rose bloom open. And from there, we're going to go ahead and see the golden grid of the flower of life begin to expand and swirl out from the heart space located at the center of the chest. And then we're going to let that pure wisdom and high frequency love light, the radiant divine substance of all of creation that's interwoven into all of life, begin to permeate and infuse itself within us, out from us, and all around us into the Akashic field. And then we're going to let that light continue to grow, expand, and interpermeate with the physical and non-physical reality that exists before us, all around us, and within us. Continuing to let it flower and expand from the heart chakra. And then feeling, seeing, sensing now as the doors to the Akasha and all the light, love, and wisdom of the Akasha open to us now. And so it is. So take a moment, and I already have some visuals coming through, but I might share a little brief message here with you. But taking just a moment, it's very, very subtle. And this is kind of where we start to really develop our intuition too, is just like noticing what we notice in the more subtle realms. So notice what you notice at the level of body. Notice if any visuals come through, any symbols. Any wisdom, any messages. Just kind of everyone intuits so differently. If there's anything being highlighted at the level of body, just going ahead and like, breathing into it. You can even just gently put your hand over the area and just receive the messages there. I'll just give you like another minute. Just allowing yourself to receive the wisdom. So you can, in your own time, your own space, it's just simply, we all have access to our own Akashic record. So you can just simply say, and if you want to grab your pendulum at this point, you totally can. It's really helpful with the pendulum to ask, if you want clarity, you can just ask like yes or no questions. But right now, to access your own Akashic records, you can grab your pendulum, and you may need to do the pendulum show me yes, pendulum show me no, so you have that communication. And then accessing your Akashic record is simply, do I locate my Akashic record now? In which case you should absolutely get a yes. There's no reason why you can't access your own record. Now, I will share a little bit of a message, because there's like something visually, I won't spend a ton of time because this is about your unique experience, but it is getting my attention over and over again. So what I am seeing is a woman who has a basket in her hands, and I started to see like a garden of flowers, and each flower is unique. And she's like gathering up these flowers. Brandy, I feel like this kind of speaks to what we were touching in on at the top, and I'll tell you why in a second. Because there's like this gathering of like things that are unique. There's like similar things, but they're all kind of different. And she's like picking these flowers, like each one of them, and putting them in the basket. So the medicine like around that to me is about like the accumulation and also the like gathering of unique pieces along our sacred path. And this is like, and there's two messages simultaneously, because it's really beautiful when we can start to kind of, gather our toolbox, but it's also really beautiful when we can start to combine it and kind of like make it our own as the unique expression of our own medicine in the world, like our own. And that's the other message around the flowers is around our feminine essence. I was just thinking this morning. I literally said every woman is a flower in my head. So this is funny. But and it's like the unique expression of you and how it's not going to look like anyone else. I'm sure we all know that to a degree, but there's just something so beautiful that wants to be celebrated and recognized about the beauty and the uniqueness of each of your essences or your spirit. That's one of the things that I like to teach on with the Akashic records, is that there is this method that I'm teaching you, but it is also about accessing your own medicine, because there's so much healing power beyond the processes and the tools as well. So just offering that, seeing where that lands. And then, so let's go ahead and let's go ahead and you can ask for a guide on behalf of your team to step forward. Yes. Okay, cool. Oh, yes, Sarah. Love it. That's awesome. There you go. Came through. Well, this is the thing with healers, right? It's like we have so many, so many interests and so many tools. What did I just say? Oh, yeah. So go ahead and you can say the same thing. Do I locate with your pendulum a guide on behalf of my team? And the guide can step forward. You can take a moment and, spend some time with your guide. Who is your guide? How is your guide showing up? What do they look like? What's what colors are coming through? See if there's any wisdom or messages. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and just kind of start channel writing, and I'll give you just a few minutes here. Okay. Your guides are always something that you can, a resource, a helper that you can always refer back to, of course. And they're guides. They don't necessarily tell us what to do, right? But they do guide us based on what our desires and our vision is and our wants are for our lives. So I usually kind of start gathering like bits and pieces of wisdom, right? It's like, for me, it's like the clues around like what's relevant to the soul at this lifetime. Or sorry, at this time. Now we're going to go ahead and you can simply ask, do I locate the higher self? You can totally access your own higher self. It is a little easier when you're doing it like on behalf of other people, because it's like not your own, right? But you can still do it. I do it. And for me, when I locate my higher self, right? It's like, I will just kind of get like a pulse on the higher self. So just take a moment and like tune in, like tune into the higher self. I mean, that is kind of a weird statement. So it's, do I locate the higher self? And then see what sense you get, what visual you get. And also, like, from here, like, what is the current situation? Like, what are you being mirrored about your current situation? And that could come through as a visual or just as some like communication, some channel communication. And I'll give you a moment with that. My pendulum is swinging intensely. Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, you probably have a good, strong connection, Bradley. Sometimes my pendulum is like super soft, like it is kind of right now. And then sometimes, like where there's like a big kind of clearing sometimes, or like where the Akashic guides are like, you're really hitting on something. Then my pendulum kind of goes a little wild. Okay, so just kind of some information about the current situation. And then just like anything you notice about like, but where is their expansion wanting to happen? Like, what do you notice about where that is? Expansion, movement, and expansion and movement are kind of like, if I boil it down, those would be the two pieces, expansion or movement. And I want to share a bit more, but I don't want to interrupt your process either. Okay, so beautiful. Even if you got a few things, like sometimes I'll just tap into the higher self and I just get like a couple pieces of like, for example, like, oh, I can feel there's like a lot of tightness around the throat chakra. There's like things that want to be said, but you're having a hard time saying them. Or I might even feel that for myself, and that's kind of like enough information. I know I'm dealing with like authentic expression and truth. And this is where we're wanting to like create expansion for essence, for soul. Now, as we move into kind of like the blocks or the issues here, there's always two ways to go about this. Like, I mean, oftentimes when like clients come in, I don't really get a lot of background information from them. Like, it's like you get the realignment in the session, you get the wisdom in the session. And it's usually when I'm working with clients, they're like, that's exactly what's happening right now, So the records, no. The higher self's there, the records, no. But you could, if you wanted to, prior to a session, kind of like journal out what is like working in your life, what's not working in your life, like what you really want this to be about. And now, saying that, sometimes I have like where there's maybe communication issues with like my husband or something, and I'll go in and be like, hey, what is showing up around this? But oftentimes it's like we can just drop in and we will just get the clarity and the realignment that we need. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that. How is everyone doing? And do you have any questions? Just trusting the process, receiving the wisdom. There's sometimes like a little bit of muscle, like a little bit of like intuitive muscle building with this work too. Okay, no questions. Okay, cool. Well, first of all, actually, would anyone mind sharing what, like a little bit of what came through via higher self? And if not much came through, like totally fine, or maybe nothing came through, it's fine. But if something came through, go ahead and share. I'd love to hear what we're looking at.
I'll share a little bit.
Sure.
I just for the higher self part.
Yeah.
When I tuned in, it was almost like the higher self was almost like withdrawn sort of, or
Cool.
something
Okay.
like that. And so I felt like it was kind of encouraging a more like connected like presence. And I feel like this is maybe especially with my social media, I have a tendency to like just create a happy, like perfect picture. And I feel like it's like connect more authentically.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I can feel it when you say it, just that subtle like veil of protection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Amazing. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm so curious to see what will come up. Anybody else? Do you want okay, Brandy.
I guess like when I like visualize, I get words that come through, and I got
Oh, cool.
butterfly, angel, tree. And then
Yeah.
when you said about when you started saying like, oh, it could come through like your throat chakra, like tightness, and I like it felt like I was gonna throw up.
I figured when I said that, I was probably like picking up something from someone. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. Leanne, are you kind of just in your own process over there? That's okay too, if you are. But if something came,
a little bit, just really a lot of red bird energy.
Oh,
Red birds coming up everywhere here.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, even just saying that just gives me like shivers. So I'm just gonna
I
keep
love
going with
it.
this.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. Okay. So beautiful. So let's go into the like travel our timelines and let's just see how it all starts to kind of like piece together. And this is one of the most fun pieces of intuitive work is that you get the pieces and you don't know yet exactly how it's going to piece together, but we trust and we travel and we allow it to reveal itself. Okay, beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shut my camera off again because it is kind of nice to tune in that space. All right. So you got your pendulum in hand. Now, I like to, when I'm working in the Akashic records, specifically for past lifetime blocks, we're looking at like a major issue. It's a major issue or it's like a major story. And it's playing out present lifetime, and it's the block. And so we want to travel back to a past lifetime where this issue, where the root of the issue was created. So that's what we're going to do. So first of all, we want to find the lifetime that the issue was created. So go ahead and ask. You're going to ask with your pendulum, how many lifetimes ago was this created? And then you might want to count back. You might see a number. Like sometimes I just see the number. Is it 10 lifetimes ago? I might get 10. And then I'll ask my pendulum, like, the communication between my higher self and the Akashic guides, right? Happening through the subconscious aspect and connecting to the pendulum. And that was a little bit more information than I needed to give. But basically, how many lifetimes ago? And then you can count. And you can also say, was it more than 5 lifetimes ago? Was it more than 10 lifetimes ago? Or you can just count. Was it 1 lifetime ago, 2 lifetimes ago? Or maybe you just got the number. Okay, I'm going to let you go. Find your past lifetime. Okay. Now, if you have your past lifetime, beautiful. Don't overthink, and not that any of you would, but just go with it, because regardless, you're going to get what needs to be highlighted. So 10 lifetimes ago, and then it's just kind of like, who were you? And you can ask that, who was I? And then you will either, and this again is where like there's a little bit of the intuitive muscle starts to develop, but just do the look, listen, and feel. the look, listen, and feel. Ooh, who were you in that lifetime? How are you showing up? You could be man, you could be a woman, you could be a mother, a sister, a leader of some sort. Who were you? Start to get a felt sense or a sight sense of who you were. It's so hard for me to not ask who you were. But we don't have time for everyone to share, but I would love to know maybe after. So who were you? And this is a piece that I love, because you can use the past life situations often when we're traveling timelines where we're clearing out like an issue. They're not the best past lifetimes. They're kind of harder past lifetimes, but you can actually get a lot of clarity over like different healing paths that you've traveled, priestess paths that you've traveled, different incarnations that really highlight like your authentic expression and your gifts and your purpose. So just notice who you were. It starts to give clues too, like who were you? And you'll probably notice some aspects of your strength, your power, your purpose. Now what we want to do is we want to notice who were you in relationship with? Like what's the experience? Try to get a bigger picture of like what is going on. Yeah. Who are you in relationship? And then what was the experience? Okay, so it's through the experience. Now we want to start to get like, what was the story? Like what started to happen? And as we start to uncover like what happened, this is where we want to start to notice like where the trauma or the difficulty in the experience starts to emerge. Right. And chances are, as this is revealed, it's going to start to actually reveal certain aspects of different stories and experiences that have played out and or are playing out present lifetime. But you're just noticing what you notice. So go ahead and just try to see how this is all unfolding, see the story, see who it's playing out with the experience, what the difficulty or the trauma was around the experience. And then we're going to get into like choice. This is an important piece. I can actually, I can get quite a bit of information like from a past lifetime. And then, starting to notice like already similar parallels between past lifetime and this current timeline, whether myself or the client, and it's starting to give me like a lot of like feedback. And then also, so now we want to move into the choice. Right. So there would have been, and these choices are, they're either conscious or unconscious negative choices that have created lack, limitation, separation, poverty, all of those pieces. But just notice where you made a choice, right? Where you most likely gave yourself away, sometimes out of a feeling of like responsibility or obligation. Right? But notice what the choice is. Where did you give yourself away? And you're usually giving yourself away in order to get something. Okay. So the negative choice, like the choice that was made where you gave yourself away, is the choice that creates the limitation, that creates the story in terms of how your experience is looking present lifetime in the context of whatever experience was illuminated. So we want to go, and this is an important piece, and we'll look at like clearing out the choice point. The choice point is where like the soul level block is created. So there are many different kinds of soul level blocks, and we're not getting into all of them today. But the most important piece always is the choice that was made that created the energetic block, the limitation, the separation, because it's the very root of where the energetic entanglement is playing out in our current experience. So once we can get to the root of it, and once we can bring it into our awareness, that's where we really start to like clear it and shift it. I'm gonna do the clearing statement as well. But most importantly, to identify it and bring it into our awareness, right from the soupy kind of deeper layers of the soul, is where we have the most power. It's like it instantly, as far as I'm concerned, it clears. But going ahead and noticing now in your current experience where that is playing out. Where are you seeing similarities? Where are you seeing the parallel? Where are you feeling it in your body? Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead, and you can always, there's, the simple method for clearing out the soul level root block of the choices that have been made is really to call upon the violet flames. Actually, we can do that. I'm going to call on Archangel Michael, Archangel Michael, Archangel Michael, and I'm going to request the violet flames. And we'll just ask for the violet flames. You can see the violet flames present in front of you. It's just kind of like it's the purest frequency of fire that clears through all dimensions. So we'll do both clearing methods, but just anything from that experience that's ready to be cleared, just like kind of throwing it in the fire and allowing it to be transmuted. All the emotions, memories, imprints, minus the trauma, all the experiences, thought patterns from the experience, that it now be transmuted. But I'm going to take it a step further. And when I send the prayer, I'll send the clearing request as well. So I'm going to ask that the block that's created from the choice point in the past life experience that is playing out current life, that it now be cleared and destroyed right to the point of creation, backwards and forwards through all spaces, realities, timelines, dimensions, and that it be transmuted now to divine love and light, and then released fully back to source. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and so it is. Yeah, so my pendulum is just like going crazy. So Akashic record work, when you clear it, you can sometimes feel it, but because it's fifth dimensional, it's like instantaneous. It's a different dimension. You don't necessarily feel it right at the moment, but it will start to clear out, like it's cleared. And then from the level of body and the emotional body and the mental body, that'll start to clear out over the next like 3-5 days, over the next week. And depending how deep the block is and how old the lifetime was, it can take a couple weeks. Okay, now finally with this past life piece, just go ahead, and this is an important piece because I believe, and this is what I see with, space holding now for many, many women, we have a powerful opportunity here to also recognize what is going to shift and change as a result of clearing out at the root this soul level block, this soul level vibrational story that's been playing out in our book of life, in the Akashic records, and being recreated in our physical experience. We clear it out. what is the new story? Like, how do things get to shift and change into alignment with the new experience of yourself and of your reality? And just make a note, like things are going to, I can see things shifting and changing like this. It just brings our awareness and it just drops us into the new story. Okay. All right. Beautiful. So I hope you're getting some bits and pieces. I'm going to trust that you are. And also now let's go ahead. So we've traveled that timeline. And there's a piece that I forgot to do that I always do. And this is about using the higher self to connect to your beautiful, powerful future self. And I didn't do that. And I often do that. It's like one of my favorite pieces, to use the higher self to provide us with a mirror of the woman that we are kind of like being called to step into next on our evolutionary path. She also gives us a point of alignment. So, we're doing this clearing work, and we tapped into higher self, and we got like the picture of where we're at now and where we desire to be. But just let's take a moment. We're going to ask higher self, and you can just kind of coming back into body, coming back into space of presence. We're going to ask higher self to just give us a visual like of the woman that we are being called to be. And you can go ahead and just like seeing, first of all, like a door in front of you. You can see a door in front of you. And this is one of the beautiful ways we play with higher self and the Akashic field. And you can kind of put your hand on the door, feel the door. And then when you're ready, kind of like taking the doorknob and opening the door. And as you open the door, there is your beautiful, powerful future self. Like, this is the woman that you are being called to embody next. And maybe that's in like 3 months or 6 months, right? Or a year. However she shows up, just like noticing what you notice about her. And this is higher self really showing you. Higher self really showing you. Oh, there's someone wanting to get into the waiting room. Shoot. The evolution. It's like some guidance around who you are and the energy and the frequency that you are embodying. And this is where it's so beautiful with the Akashic records, is we can simultaneously clear out the old. And then again, she's kind of a North Star for who we are becoming more fully embodied as. So when you see her, you can kind of walk over to her, just notice how you notice her, and then going ahead and just like pulling her into your body. Okay, so that was a little off topic, but it just felt important to weave it in, and I somehow missed that piece. Okay, let's move along to the next timeline. So we are going to travel inner child. So the inner child piece becomes really important. And sometimes even when we're working at the level of inner child, you're traveling back to a past lifetime. A lot of like the reoccurring patterns and experiences that occurred in childhood, it's amazing how often they are how often they come from past life experiences. So that will often be the case. For this timeline though, we're going to actually just travel. We're going to travel to the past, but in our current lifetime. So going ahead and let's see here, I got this all mapped out. We're going to actually look at like an energetic pattern that's ready to be cleared. This is really important because especially when it comes to our leadership and our relationships, so much of it, visibility, communication, a lot of like our blocks originate from our family of origin experience. Even if we had like really loving parents, right? It often depends too on like what the blocks of our parents were. So there's layers to all of this. Okay, so let's go ahead. Inner child. Okay, so go ahead and we're going to ask, we're looking for an energetic pattern. And you're going to ask, what was the present lifetime age this energetic pattern was created? And it's hard to count sometimes, but you can just say, like, using your pendulum, was this in the first decade of life? Was it in the second decade of life? If it's in the second decade of life, you can kind of count. Was it age 10? Was it age 11? Was it age 12? That kind of thing. Okay, so same thing, and this can be tricky. Everyone has such different experiences of childhood. For some women, it's even hard to like connect to or visually see their childhood at all. So whatever it is like for you is fine. Maybe it's more felt sense, that's fine. What is the experience that's showing up at that age? What's coming into your awareness? You can go ahead and write a bit down about that. And then we're going to determine what chakra the pact is sitting at. So you can go ahead and, of course, I'm not getting deep into the chakra system today, but I'm sure some of you have at least a basic understanding of the chakra system. But we're going to use our pendulum and we're going to ask, is the pattern sitting at the first chakra, second chakra, third chakra, fourth chakra, fifth chakra, sixth chakra, seventh chakra? And you're just going to use your pendulum and see where the pattern is sitting at. You'll know because your pendulum will swing yes. And so beautiful. Once you have the chakra located, you've got an understanding of where this pattern is playing out and how you're currently being affected by it. If you've found the chakra, but you need a little bit more information on that chakra, just like let me know. Okay, so here we're going to go into, so we've got a little bit of information about the experience. We've looked up the chakra. And then we're going to go ahead and energetic patterns are basically things that we did in order to keep ourselves safe, right? So just noticing in your experience that was playing out, like what were you needing? What were you needing that you didn't get? What did you give away in order to feel safe? And then how does that pattern show up now? How is that pattern playing out now? Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the clearing request. So I'm going to ask that the energetic pattern, the energetic block be cleared for each woman in her Akashic record, right to the point of creation, cleared and destroyed, right to the point of creation, and that it is cleared backwards and forwards through all spaces, realities, timelines, and dimensions, and that it is transmuted now to divine love and light, and then released fully back to source. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Wherever you may be feeling that in your body, go ahead and breathe into it. I felt like a wave of sadness come up. And yeah, it's like the energy wants to move, and I could almost feel it in the heart, maybe a bit in the throat. Okay, amazing. So let's just take a moment and bring the inner child some like love right now. It feels like maybe that might be needed. So just, there's a lot of deep work we could do around this piece. It's an important part of the journey for sure. But let's just taking a moment, closing your eyes and just like tuning into the little girl within, and just kind of like letting her know that you're here, sending her some love, letting her know how amazing she is. Beautiful. Okay. Feels like, and this is an important piece too. There may be some room after the 90-minute today too, just as you leave the space, taking some time to nurture, to listen to her. Sometimes this piece can really unlock a lot. All right. Okay, we're ready for the final timeline. Okay, so ancestral. So there's usually, when we're working ancestrally, it's a lot of times it's like beliefs that get carried through like our DNA. So that's primarily it. But sometimes you can have like vows that also like vows of poverty, vows of sacrifice, like generational, just different generational vows. And those are things that you can always look up. But what I often find is beliefs. And it's usually like a belief that's carried forward along the maternal line or along the paternal line. And then it runs back like how many different generations kind of thing, or how many generations back. And then we go back. And for me, it's like, again, it's like kind of similar to all the timelines that we've been traveling, but it's a little bit of like, the look, listen, feel. We travel back to the generation. We look, listen, feel, depending on like, is it paternal? Is it maternal? And we start to get a sense of who is present in our lineage, what the experience was, right? Where they maybe gave themselves away. And then we look at like what the belief was that was created, and then what the belief was and where in our chakra system it is sitting. And that generally offers like enough clues to be able to determine how it's affecting us presently. So, okay, so let's go ahead and the ancestral piece. So we're getting to another aspect of a current, like, life issue that we're clearing out. So you can go ahead and ask, is the belief located on my maternal side or my paternal side? Okay. And then you want to ask, depending on which side it is, how many generations back? So I don't usually personally like get more than like maybe 2 generations, 4 generations, 6 or 8 generations. I mean, I'm sure you could go back really far, but there's oftentimes so much work to do, even just in some of the recent generations of our lineage. So go back and just start asking, how many generations back? Is it 1, 2, 3? And you can do a little bit of counting. And then when you find the generation, you want to know, you just want to start to tune into what the experience is. Like how is grandma or grandpa or great, 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 great grandma or grandpa, how are they presenting? What's the experience? What are you noticing? What are you feeling? It is very cool. Like, I'm interrupting your process. Go ahead. Tune in to the experience. What are you noticing? What are you feeling? Okay, so what you want to start to know from there is, where is the belief sitting at which chakra? And you're going to use your pendulum once again to douse through the pendulum, sorry, to douse through the chakra system. Locate the chakra the belief is being held at. Okay. So the belief, and then now you want to locate the belief. And this is basically, and beliefs are so powerful because whatever we believe, right, we're creating. It's like it's showing up in our experience because our belief system is that powerful. So it's like we want to locate this belief and we want to like pluck it out. And I love clearing beliefs and I love it when they show up. But just noticing now in the ancestral piece, like, what is the belief that was created through that experience? And it's like very similar to like, where was grandma or grandpa? What was the situation? What was the choice? Right? Where maybe did they like give themselves away, or what did they buy into? And that starts to give you clarity over like, what was the like the intrinsic belief that was formed, which chakra is it sitting at, so you'll know how you're being affected. Okay, beautiful. So you should be noticing where this is playing out. It often plays out, it can play out in so many different ways. It can play out with money. It can play out in like communication with our spouse. It can play out in like the woman's like a role in the family unit. Oh, it could play out with like how we numb ourselves even, like, oh my gosh, so many different ways. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do the clearing request. So I'm going to ask that this block now be cleared and destroyed right to the point of creation, backwards and forwards, through all spaces, realities, timelines, and dimensions, and that it be transmuted to divine love and light and then released fully back to source. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. So and one thing that I like to do is like, what is the new belief? Like if we're identifying where there's an old belief that's like no longer serves your evolution, then it's like, what is the new belief? It's like the opposite, right? So it's like, what is the new belief? You could kind of like jot something down. And again, it just brings it into your awareness and allows you to begin to formulate a new story, really. So very powerful. Okay, so we're already reaching the end of 90 minutes. Like, how did that happen? So, okay, so we've traveled these 3 timelines, and I feel like that maybe was like a lot, but you are all still here, being great, good troopers. So let's go ahead, and we always want to look at, we're going to bring it full circle, right? So now we're going to bring it for full circle. So what I often do is I just kind of like notice what I noticed about like the journey, like the circle that I traveled as I moved through the Akashic records, and what is the most important piece that's kind of being highlighted now, right? And so for me, kind of like with the Akashic records, it's like certain things are highlighted that start to pull together the deeper understanding of like the most important piece that was illuminated in terms of how I'm being affected by this block, or my client was affected, is currently being affected. It's like, you know, the most important piece. When I kind of start to like link it together, like I'm like link the most important like intuitive pieces together. And then I start to look at how to ground it. Like, obviously we've cleared it, but you might notice like, oh, this was like, so I'm going to use communication again, but like this all is around like communication in terms of like where I'm being invited to speak my truth and to share more boldly or more loudly. And I can see the threads of this. There was like very common bits and pieces of information around the blocks and the choices that were showing up so beautiful. And now we want to look at how can you, what is the action step? What is something that you can do in the physical world now to support the embodiment of this new understanding of whatever wants to open for you? Right? So it could be like around money, it could be around visibility. So it's like, what is the action step? How are you going to honor this? And it's not even that with the Akashic records, you necessarily need to do this. Like, you really don't. You'll find things will open, untangle, shift, there'll be clarity, you will get some movement, but I love to bring things to a full cycle of transformation. And when we take action in the physical world through an action step, we meet the energy of transformation very powerfully, and we ground it in the physical, and it becomes embodied that much more quickly. So we are accelerating our path like times 10, right? And we're essentially like really actively participating in our own transformation, in our own evolution. So we're like that much closer to embodying that future self woman. And that's how the Akashic records and well, really specifically the method that I've designed and how I teach the energetics of embodied soul level transformation, how it works. And you can come back to this again and again. And when you're ready for a next layer and a next layer, right? And it keeps you in this energetic like alignment of this woman that you are becoming. You don't necessarily even need the future self piece. I just love it because it gives like a visual piece. The Akashic records will naturally give you the next step, will naturally clear out the old layer of the onion, will naturally start to open the way. The other way you can do this is just like, what is the most important piece of clarity you've had today? Right? And what is one way that you can honor that now moving forward? Oh, there is more I could say, but I know it'll be overwhelming. And this 90 minutes is perfect. Even for me, when I'm facilitating a 90-minute session and we were only in the records for an hour, but 90 minutes it's a lot to take in information. So what I always do from here is I will close out the Akashic field and the Akashic records because we don't want this subtle portal open. If you do that and you've done it, you will feel not grounded. Your energy will not be present. You'll just feel really off. So important piece. So I'm going to go ahead and thank the guides, guardians, masters, angels, teachers who have been a part of this experience today. And we're going to know that the clarity, healing, intentions, activations, it's all going to unfold into completion for your highest good, and the door between the worlds is now closed. And so it is. So drink lots of water over the next like 12 hours or 24 hours, right? Because we're working in a different energetic space and there's been clearing work. The water will help to get everything moving and flushed out. Get outside if you need to, if you just want to integrate and just kind of lie there quietly for a little bit. Beautiful. But before you go, I would love to hear anything you want to share, or any kind of like the most important like bit of clarity you had, or just the most exciting piece. Doesn't really matter. Does anyone want to share? Now it's kind of like weird to come out of our cocoons again, right? Any questions? Everyone's so quiet. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. I just want to say that this was really great. Like, I've done this work before, but
Yeah.
this like container that you created was just what I needed today.
Oh, beautiful. I'm so happy. That's awesome. Yeah. Brandy, Leanne, any questions? How did it feel for you? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Like, did it feel like too much?
I feel exhausted. Like
I know that 90 minutes, but an hour in the records when you're not used to it. Yeah. It'll leave you.
At one point, like my head was throbbing and then my ear, and now I have a migraine. I'm like, did I break?
Yeah, okay. So yeah,
that
so
happens.
we want to, yeah, totally. So we want to get you drinking like lots of water and then get outside and ground your butterfly feet.
Yeah.
Go be the tree. Yeah. I'll reach out though in like today or tomorrow. I just want to make sure that that energy's moving and that you feel okay. So yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I was like not gonna say anything, but I was like, I gotta say something.
Well, you don't got to. I know. I was like, I wonder if it's like a little bit overwhelming, but it's like a lot of energy too. So yeah, so we'll just integrate and do some self-care. And yeah, awesome. We'll take you off the video though, so you don't feel like you've got to be on when you're not feeling good. Leanne, how was that for you? Like, you've done a lot of the group work, but I just am curious.
Yeah, that was good. I filled my sketchbook, it feels like.
Oh, awesome.
I gathered up a lot of pieces, and then at the end, it just got really clear about what I can do, what I can create for myself to really honor these pieces. And it all tied together really beautifully. Like at first I'm like, could that be? But I just kept stepping through it and just like, gathering the
I love
pieces,
it.
and it came together really beautifully at the end. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Good. That's so fun. Awesome. Okay,
I did
great. Yeah,
also have a bit of lay down at the end.
yeah, okay. Well, yeah, it's true though. 3 timelines. Okay, well, beauties, thank you so much for being here with me. And I shall send you out the recording. I'm also going to let you know, just because this is going out as a recording, the Flower of Life Akashic certification begins tomorrow for anyone that is interested in learning this process and going deeper through your own activation, your own soul level transformation, and then taking this work out into the world. All right. So that's it. Have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.